Welcome back to the Global Greek Influence podcast, Giota Pimenidou, where we uncover ideas, insights, and innovations shaping the future across industries and borders. We often link today's technology to innovation, geopolitics, and history to understand the full nature of what drives today's technologies and mindsets. You can now listen to the Global Greek Influence Giota Pimenidou podcast every 2 Tuesdays, not Sundays, as we used to. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and your favorite podcasting platform thanks to our large and growing distribution network. For bonus episodes and exclusive video content, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Giota Pimenidou and stay up to date with all podcast news and behind-the-scenes updates by following us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and X at Greek_global. Want to stay ahead of the curve? Then join us on TikTok at the Innovation Catalyst to keep the inspiration flowing. Today's guest is Yannis Kalfoglou, a business technologist passionate about using technology to solve complex societal challenges and improve lives on a healthier planet. From his beginnings as a growth hacker and self-taught entrepreneur to holding academic and strategic roles at some of the world's leading institutions, Yannis has always believed in the responsible and impactful application of technology. Yannis brings multi-year experience with venture capital funds, coaching entrepreneurs at young startups, and advising both government clients and commercial outlets. He has had extensive exposure to CXO-level leadership across Fortune Global 500 companies where he initiated and championed innovation processes. With 3 decades of cumulative experience in AI, blockchain, semantic web, natural language understanding, NLU, machine learning, and ontology engineering, Yannis has worked across industries from consumer electronics and capital markets to oil and gas, office automation, and consulting. He has mastered every stage of the technology lifecycle from ideation to deployment while sharing insights through thought leadership. Currently, Yannis serves as AI strategist at Dell Technologies, where he helps organizations become artificial intelligence builders, not just users. He provides strategic guidance for implementing enterprise-grade generative AI using Dell's industry-leading end-to-end infrastructure and validated solutions, focused particularly on clients across EMEA and on diverse use cases, including generative AI inference, model customization, and training. Yannis holds a PhD in Artificial Intelligence from the University of Edinburgh, awarded through the EU Marie Curie Fellowship, and a BSc in Computer Studies from the University of Portsmouth. In this episode, we explore how different sectors adopt or struggle to adopt artificial intelligence, what makes an AI initiative truly worthwhile, and the persistent misconceptions that can disrupt even the best strategies. From AI's convergence with blockchain to its transformative but often overlooked use cases in public services, Yannis shares a grounded and visionary outlook on what's next for applied AI and how to ensure it works in our favor. So whether you are a tech leader, policymaker, entrepreneur, or just curious about the real-world evolution of AI, this conversation will give you clarity, context, and insight. Welcome to the show, Yanni.
Thank you, Giota. Thanks very much for the lengthy and very informative introduction. I really appreciate that.
I really had to go through all this information. It's great to have you with us, especially at a time when the pace and purpose of AI adoption are such pressing topics across industries. Artificial intelligence is transforming many industries, but not all at the same speed. Some sectors like banking and healthcare use AI a lot to help with things like detecting fraud or diagnosing diseases faster. Other industries like smaller companies or traditional factories haven't adopted AI as quickly, often because they face challenges like cost, technical skills, or uncertainty about its benefits. Understanding which industries are leading or lagging in AI adoption helps us see whether the technology is making the biggest difference and where more support or innovation is needed. From your 34 years of experience across multinationals, SMEs, and startups, which sectoral shift do you find most critical in shaping AI adoption and why?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think One of the interesting things we need to contemplate as we are now in pretty much done with the first quarter of this 21st century, 2025, is that AI these days permeates across all aspects of modern life. As you already pointed out, there are industries which have already onboarded this journey. There are others who are maybe lagging a bit behind. But this AI omnipresence in every industry, in my view, it's already a massive sectoral shift. If you like a cross-sectoral shift across many industries. But ultimately, if you're looking in terms of the most critical, AI needs to be adopted by the masses, right? It's not only from the specialists. And one of the most fundamental drivers for the renaissance of AI that we are experiencing these days, in my view, is the democratization of AI. So nowadays, thanks to the conversational interfaces with AI, you can literally just speak to an AI or type to an AI. AI can be used by anyone, anywhere in the world with an internet connection, and they can use them to go about their everyday tasks and use AI to amplify what they try to do. That in itself, in my view, is a sectoral shift. And it is a shift because if you're looking at the business model fundamentals that drive sectoral shifts, one of the things that this particular democratization of AI allows us to do is to have a more solid establishment of what we typically call prosumers, like the combination of producers and consumers, is not a new thing. We already have prosumers in the Web 2.0 era with the social media and the user-generated content. But using AI takes you to a different level. It lowers the entry barrier, and that causes shifts in sector dynamics. For example, a consumer armed with AI is an informed and engaged consumer that can challenge any product specification, whereas on the other hand, a producer armed with AI can micro-target a consumer beyond state-of-the-art market scan strategies. So in essence, the modus operandi of businesses changes because the emergence of prosumers armed with AI.
AI has been hyped a lot. People often talk about it as if it is a magic solution, but for businesses investing in AI, it's important to know whether it actually improves their bottom line, like saving money, making customers happier, or helping employees work better. For instance, what works in banking might flop in agriculture or healthcare. On top of that, industries vary widely in how ready they are for advanced technologies, judging whether an AI initiative is truly worthwhile, especially when every sector starts from a different level of technological maturity, means cutting through complexity and focusing on measurable impact. How do you evaluate the real business value of AI initiatives, especially when working across industries with vastly different technological maturities?
Yeah, that's a very good question. As a guiding principles, the fundamentals of investing in a new technology, AI in this case, there must be in place. In other words, understanding your key performance indicators, your critical success factors, being able to quantify and qualify return on investment, and many other metrics we know from operations to let you know how you're doing, whether you are going the right direction, how far have you gone, how far are you from your target. So basically, you can't improve what you can't measure. So once you have the fundamentals in place, and that's an exercise in its own right, it's not that easy to do, then you need to establish a truthful and verifiable baseline. Basically, where you are today. So when you apply AI in order to improve on this baseline, you know exactly how far you can go. So often what we've seen is that we're kicking off AI initiatives and we're aiming for, let's say, 100% performance or improvement or whatever the measure might be, without really understanding where the baseline might be. And the baseline might be in a meager 70%, in which case just a 5 or 10% increase would be a success. So you need to understand your baseline and have the right structure and processes to allow you to measure the baseline. And once you have that, then you can put a kind of a dollar euro value on top of that against the effort you need to put in and basically measure your time to value, time to revenue, whatever the metric applies to you, and understand your value streams. Only then you will be able to apply AI successfully and understand and evaluate its outcome.
As you mentioned earlier, most of us interact with AI through the use of social media. And many people think that AI is just about installing new software or fancy tools. But when it comes to businesses, and in reality, successfully using AI often means changing how a company works, its culture, how employees are trained, and even how decisions are made. There are lots of misunderstandings about what it really takes to use AI effectively, and we want to hear from you, Yanni. What, in your view, is the most misunderstood aspect of AI strategy by the general public or even by business leaders?
Yeah, that's a very good question, especially when it comes to strategy, AI strategy, Giota, because it's very close to my heart. As we know from historical evidence, is that strategy in general is perceived as something that it takes a long time to put in place. It has a longer payback cycle. Oftentimes, it leads to irreconcilable arguments between stakeholders at the design phase. Sometimes it lacks operational execution ability. However, in reality, the state of the art and techniques for crafting strategies is changing, and AI strategies in particular are becoming a lot more dynamic in nature. They are tightened to immediate outcomes and also time-box execution profiles. So therefore, it's easier to develop a strategy, communicate across the organization, cascading down to different layers, and at the same time, being able to use AI itself to speed up your AI strategy in terms of crafting and developing the strategy. Now, why do you need to do that? Because once you have a solid AI strategy in place, you can help avoid what we call dead ends in your AI journey. So things like mistaken extrapolations, the whole notion of overestimate and underestimate what will be the outcome and the effort. You can avoid the generalizations, which at times comes from confusing performance with competence. Just because an AI chatbot performs at a certain level doesn't mean incompetent at other levels. You can also avoid what we also see, the ignorance of context. So AI might perform really well in the lab, but when it faces the messy real world, the situation changes rapidly. So a solid strategy and planning is needed to help us navigate these unforeseen situations. That's how I would approach it.
AI and blockchain are often mentioned together as part of the future of tech, but not every combination of the two is useful. Still, when they work well together, they can offer both intelligence and trust, smart systems that are transparent and secure. We want to know where these technologies really click and where the friction still lies. Having worked with both AI and blockchain, where do you see the convergence or synergy between these two technologies in practical terms, not just hype?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, Jota, especially when these two technologies are getting a lot of attention for many years now. I regard them as foundational technologies that they go hand in hand. Although their trajectories might be somewhat different, AI has been around for a lot longer, more than 70 years now, blockchain for a lot less, but depends when you count the kicking off time for blockchain. But nonetheless, they both enjoy lots of popularity and huge community support and involvement. Now, in my view, these are cornerstones technologies for the emerging digitally autonomous world, a world where autonomous digital agents driven by AI will interact and transact on digital assets, which will be residing in secure, auditable blockchains, with humans obviously over the loop, sometimes in the loop, to manifest outcomes. Now, they might be both interdependent, but at the same time, they are kind of beneficial to each other. So, for example, blockchain can help us fact check the misinformation and disinformation that happens the latest generation of AI, especially the large language models and the way they are trained and generate outcomes. On the other hand, AI can help accelerate this autonomous digital economy driven by blockchain smart contracts by making the smart contracts more efficient and agentic in nature to help us to rapidly onboard them across industries and sectors. So in my view, these are synergetic emerging technologies, and connecting these two will bring about better outcomes rather than just convergence. But I have to also know that they're not really living in isolation. There are some startups and niche labs out there that they develop these two technologies in a convergence kind of fashion.
As AI becomes more powerful and widespread, it raises important questions about fairness, privacy, and responsibility. For example, how do we make sure AI decisions don't discriminate or invade privacy? And how can humans stay in control of AI, especially when it's making decisions that affect people's lives? How companies can grow their AI use while still respecting ethical principles and evolving human judgment?
So I think one of the interesting aspects to bring here is the principle of governance. So governance, in particular, governing AI, it's very important, especially when it comes to making sure the outcomes of AI are ethically and morally acceptable. So it's very important to stay close to the AI's decision-making loop, whether it is a human in the loop or a human over the loop or total control, and therefore governance frameworks, lines, standards, and also industry-specific regulations should be followed and enforced by the accredited bodies. As we are progressing in our AI journey, it becomes more autonomous, and therefore we don't want AI to take unwanted directions or decisions, which, looking at its technical nature, being a stochastic engine, sometimes this can happen. So human oversight is key in having the right governance in place and operate it as an enabler. Now, adopting an AI governance can also take different shapes. It can be, for example, top-down, dictated by senior leadership and enforceable by regulations. Could be bottom-up, driven by the masses with adoption or rejection of an AI service, or could be middle-out, community or sector-driven. But whatever the case might be, it is seen as a necessity in today's world of stochastic AI, where the outputs can differ from those from prior outputs.
What is your opinion on the US approach that the EU is overregulating AI?
Well, the thing is, again, you have to have this kind of very common notion with regards to innovation, hamper innovation or encourage innovation. At the same time, we need to be cautious that innovation needs to make sense for human benefit. There is one thing to encourage innovation, but unchecked innovation at times, thanks to commercial pressures for profit making, can lead to unwanted results. I think the EU is really kind of gold plating and developing things like the EU AI Act and other frameworks. It's very important for the progression of the field. At the same time, it needs to be balanced against our desire and need to progress faster and embed AI in our everyday lives. So in my view, it's a balanced situation we need to take into account here.
When people think about AI, they often imagine robots or chatbots, but AI is actually being used in many surprising ways that many of us might have not heard about, like predicting when machines will break down before it happens, or helping scientists model climate change more accurately, or medical researchers to diagnose quicker and more accurately life-threatening diseases, or accelerate testing of new drugs. What are the non-obvious AI use cases you believe will redefine either legacy industries or public services in the next decade?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Giota. I think one should look at it from the definition of a legacy industry, for example. So one of the things that we know is that legacy industries or maybe public services are often seen as technophobic. They're a bit hesitant to adopt a new and emerging technology, also seen as laggards, not exactly engaging too quickly, too early. However, the rapid expansion of AI across different industries can change that quickly. So often these industries are technophobic and legacy because they're burdened by overwhelming processes which were designed a long time ago, and they're not keeping up with the pace of a modern world, right? Believe it or not, there's still businesses who actually conduct certain processes using faxes, for example, right? So AI can help redefine those processes and can help the industries reshape the way they interact with their audiences faster than maybe a human process designer will do, or maybe even willing to do. Equally, the public perception of these industries can change and enrich with positive outcomes using, for example, AI to enhance their customer interactions with these industries, which therefore will have a knock-on effect on the CSAT, the satisfiability scores, to referrals, and allow them to do better product market fit and also macro targeting the consumers they want to engage with, assisted by AI, of course. So there are plenty of AI-driven opportunities to improve and enrich the operational fundamentals of these industries, from supply chain optimization, you already mentioned some examples there, all the way to effective procurement and scalable infrastructures.
That was an eye-opening journey into the practical, strategic, and ethical dimensions of artificial intelligence, one that reminds us that progress doesn't just come from innovation, but from thoughtful implementation and inclusive leadership. A huge thank you to you, Yanni, for sharing your expertise, honesty, and deep understanding of how technology can can and should serve people first.
Thank you, Giota. Much appreciated the conversation.
Whether it's transforming legacy industries or building new digital frontiers, Yannis' insights leave us with a powerful reminder: AI is only as impactful as the purpose and preparation behind it. Thanks for listening to the Global Greek Influence Giota Pimenidou podcast. Until next time, stay curious, stay thoughtful, and keep influencing the future.